In today's episode, we'll explore some of the worst safari trips ever recorded, from the most horrifying hippopotamus attack in history to a mother who stepped out of a safari car for a lion photo with tragic consequences. But first, let's begin with the story of Quinn Swales. It was August 24, 2014, when Zimbabwe's Hwange National Park would witness one of Africa's most heroic and tragic lion encounters. For Quinn Swales, a 40-year-old professional guide, what started as a routine walking safari would end in an act of ultimate sacrifice. By 2014, Hwange National Park had established itself as Zimbabwe's crown jewel of wildlife tourism. Spanning 14,650 square kilometers of northwestern Zimbabwe, the park housed over 500 species of animals, including Africa's largest population of wild dogs and 4 of the Big Five: elephant, lion, leopard, and buffalo. The park had recently gained international attention, though for tragic reasons. Just weeks earlier, the killing of Cecil, a beloved 13-year-old male lion, by American dentist Walter Palmer, had sparked global outrage and cast a shadow over the park's conservation efforts. Quinn Swales represented a rare breed of wildlife professional. After spending his early career as a commercial pilot in northern Zimbabwe, he had traded the cockpit for the bush, finding his true calling among Hwange's dangerous beauty. His transition to professional guide wasn't just a career change, it was a spiritual journey. Over 12 years, he had developed an almost supernatural ability to read animal behavior, track wildlife, and keep his clients safe in one of Africa's most unpredictable environments. Camp Hwange, where Quinn worked, had built its reputation on providing authentic walking safaris, a far cry from the relative safety of vehicle-based game drives. These on-foot encounters offered tourists an intimate connection with Africa's wildlife, but they also carried inherent risks that demanded absolute expertise from guides. That fateful morning began like countless others at Camp Hwange. Quinn arrived at the guide station at 5 a.m., reviewing weather conditions and recent wildlife movements. His group of 6 guests, 2 American couples and a pair of German photographers, gathered for their safety briefing at 5:30 a.m. Walking safaris demanded strict protocols, single-file formation, absolute silence when required, and immediate compliance with guide instructions. By 6:15 a.m., as dawn's first light painted the savanna in soft gold, Quinn led his group into the wilderness. The morning air carried a typical late winter chill, around 54 degrees Fahrenheit, perfect for both wildlife activity and on-foot tracking. His rifle, a .458 Winchester Magnum, stayed ready but unthreatening across his shoulder, a last resort he hoped never to use. The pride they were about to encounter was well known to Quinn. Led by Anaxa, a magnificent 8-year-old male, it consisted of 2 adult females and 2 cubs, approximately 4 months old. When male lions first appeared in Quinn's binoculars that morning, they represented everything lethal about Africa's apex predators. Adult males can weigh up to 225 kilograms, with muscles comprising 60% of their body mass, more than any other big cat. Their bite force exceeds 1,000 pounds per square inch, enough to crush a buffalo's skull. Most importantly, they're highly territorial, viewing any intrusion as a potential threat. At 6:45 a.m., Quinn spotted the first tracks. Fresh paw prints in the sandy soil told a clear story. The pride had passed through less than an hour earlier. His trained eye noted subtle details, the depth of the impressions indicating the lions were walking slowly, likely after a successful hunt. The tracks led toward a favorite resting spot, a slightly elevated area where the pride often lounged during early morning hours. The group moved with practiced precision. Quinn had positioned his clients perfectly, the morning sun behind them, wind in their faces to prevent their scent from reaching the pride. At 7:10 a.m., they first spotted the lions of the pride, approximately 100 meters away across an open savanna. The scene was picture perfect. Anaxa's massive frame stretched out on a termite mound, his dark mane backlit by the rising sun, while females and cubs lay scattered in the golden grass. What happened next would challenge everything Quinn knew about lion behavior. Inaksa's initial response seemed routine, a territorial display Quinn had witnessed dozens of times before. The lion rose slowly, his muscles rippling beneath his tawny coat, but something in his body language triggered Quinn's instincts. The lion's ears weren't just forward, they were pinned aggressively. His tail, usually relaxed during warning displays, was rigid with tension. At 7:15 a.m., Inaksa began his approach. Quinn immediately implemented standard safety protocols, positioning himself between the lion and his clients. His voice remained calm as he instructed the group to stand perfectly still. When the lion breached the 164 feet safety threshold, Quinn deployed his bear banger, a specialized noise deterrent that usually sent even the most curious lions retreating. For a moment, it seemed to work. Inaksa turned away, appearing to lose interest. The group maintained their position, hearts pounding but disciplined. Then, without warning, the lion spun and charged. The attack demonstrated the terrifying efficiency of Africa's apex predator. Inaksa covered 164 feet in less than 3 seconds, his 500-pound frame moving with explosive power. Quinn had no time to raise his rifle. Instead, he stood his ground, becoming a human shield between the charging lion and his clients. His last act was one of pure sacrifice. The impact was devastating. Inaksa's initial strike knocked Quinn backwards with the force of a speeding car. The lion's massive paws, each equipped with retractable claws designed for bringing down buffalo, struck Quinn's chest and shoulders. Within seconds, the predator's powerful jaws clamped down on Quinn's neck, a killing technique perfected over millions of years of evolution. The group's shouts echoed across the savannah as blood stained the golden grass. Park rangers monitoring the walking safari from a distant ridge immediately radioed for emergency support. But in Hwange's vast wilderness, help was precious minutes away. By the time the response team arrived at 7:45 a.m., Quinn had already succumbed to his injuries. Inaksa had retreated to his pride, leaving behind Zimbabwe's most experienced guide, lying lifeless just yards from the animals he had dedicated his life to protecting. The attack lasted precisely 47 seconds. After the initial strike and neck bite, Inaksa maintained his grip for nearly 30 seconds, his powerful jaws crushing with over 1,000 psi of force. The 6 clients, following their guide's earlier instructions, had retreated 60 feet back, maintaining formation despite their terror. 2 German photographers continued filming, footage that would later prove crucial to the investigation. At 7:23 a.m., Inaksa suddenly released Quinn, responding to the approaching sounds of the pride's cubs. The lion stood over Quinn's motionless body for several moments, a behavior experts later identified as territorial dominance display, before returning to his pride approximately 260 feet away. The emergency response mobilized rapidly but faced Hwange's challenging terrain. Head Ranger Thomas Moyo received the distress call at 7:24 a.m. Within 2 minutes, 3 emergency vehicles were dispatched across the park. A medical response team rushed from main camp, fighting their way across 11 miles of rugged terrain. A wildlife response unit deployed from Cinematella Station 7.5 miles to the north, while a helicopter medical unit lifted off from Victoria Falls, racing to cover the 56-mile distance. The clients, still maintaining their position, were evacuated by the first response vehicle at 7:38 a.m. Dr. Sarah Matthews, the park's chief medical officer, reached Quinn at 7:45 a.m. but could only confirm what the rangers already knew. The combination of blood loss from the severed carotid artery and catastrophic spinal trauma had caused almost instantaneous death. The investigation revealed crucial details about the attack. Inaksa was a known pride male, wearing a tracking collar similar to the one Cecil had worn. The lion had been monitored by park authorities for years, though no previous aggressive incidents toward humans had been reported. Game cameras showed the pride had been in the area for several days, with 2 females, 2 males, and 2 cubs establishing their territory near popular walking safari routes. Quinn's death sparked intense debate about walking safari protocols across Zimbabwe's national parks. While the practice of on-foot game viewing had been a cornerstone of African tourism, this incident highlighted its inherent dangers. Camp Hwange temporarily suspended walking safaris while conducting a thorough review of their safety procedures. The park authorities faced a difficult decision regarding Inoxa. Unlike incidents involving problem animals or human settlements, this attack had occurred in the lion's natural territory during a sanctioned safari activity. The decision was made to leave the pride undisturbed, a recognition that wild animals, even those habituated to human presence, remain unpredictable. Today, Quinn Swale's legacy lives on through enhanced safety protocols and guide training across Zimbabwe. Walking safaris continue, but with stricter regulations about pride territories and pride composition. His sacrifice led to the establishment of new guidelines for approaching lions on foot, particularly when cubs are present. Inoxa and his pride continue to roam Hwange's vast wilderness, a reminder of nature's raw power. Quinn's last Facebook post, fittingly, was a photo of Cecil the lion, two creatures whose stories, though vastly different, changed Hwange forever. His death serves as a testament to the courage of Africa's professional guides, and a reminder that the continent's great predators command respect until the very end. Quinn Swales faced a lion head-on, sacrificing himself to shield his group. But in the waters of the Zambezi, Evans Namasango had no such warning. A single miscalculation, canoeing too close to a hidden bull hippo, turned the river into a death trap. In an instant, the massive beast surfaced beneath his boat, and the calm waters exploded into chaos. It was March 9, 1996, when the Zambezi River, flowing majestically past Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe, would witness one of the most horrific hippopotamus attacks ever documented. The river, stretching 1,600 miles through southern Africa, had long been a premier destination for adventure tourism. By 1996, dozens of companies offered canoe safaris along its waters, despite the presence of over 2,000 hippopotamuses, Africa's deadliest large animal. In Africa river guiding, there are two types of guides: those who've had close calls with hippos and those who haven't yet. Heritage Safari Adventures had operated on the Zambezi since 1985, building a reputation for professional river tours. Their safety record was impeccable, thanks largely to experienced guides like Paul Temper. At 27, Paul had logged over 2,000 river trips, earning respect among fellow guides for his knowledge of hippo behavior and river dynamics. Evans Namasango represented the future of Zimbabwe's tourism industry. The 25-year-old had grown up in a village near Victoria Falls where the thunder of the cascading water had been his childhood soundtrack. Despite his family's limited means, Evans had worked tirelessly to earn his guide certification, spending every spare moment learning river navigation and wildlife behavior. His apprenticeship with Paul was his final step toward becoming a full-fledged river guide. The difference between a perfect river day and a catastrophe on the Zambezi can be measured in inches, the distance between a canoe's hull and a hippo's back. That morning, the river conditions seemed perfect. The water level was optimal for canoeing, and the weather was clear with light winds. Their group consisted of 3 canoes, Paul in the lead boat with 2 American tourists, Evans in the middle with a German couple, and Mike Smith, another experienced guide, bringing up the rear with photography enthusiasts. Hippopotamuses are Africa's most dangerous large animals, responsible for hundreds of human deaths annually. Their massive bodies can weigh up to 3,000 pounds, yet they can outrun humans on land. Their jaws, capable of opening 150 degrees and delivering a bite force of 2,000 pounds per square inch, can easily crush a small boat. Most importantly, they're extremely territorial, particularly during the mating season, which coincided with that fateful day in March. By 2:30 p.m., the group had successfully navigated several challenging sections of the river. The afternoon sun illuminated the water perfectly, and their tourist had already photographed elephants drinking at the riverbank and countless water birds. The mood was relaxed as they approached a seemingly calm stretch of river about 3 miles above Victoria Falls. At 2:45 p.m., Paul noticed subtle ripples in the water ahead, a telltale sign of submerged hippos. Following standard protocol, he signaled the group to give the area a wide berth, steering toward the eastern bank. Evans, demonstrating textbook guide skills, began following Paul's lead. The attack came without warning. A massive bull hippo, later estimated to weigh over 4,000 pounds, erupted from beneath the canoe with the force of a capsizing wave. The impact sent Evans and the German tourist flying. The tourists splashed down several feet away, their panicked cries rising as they struggled in the deeper water, kicking toward the reeds along the riverbank. But Evans had landed in the worst possible place, just feet from the hippo's gaping maw. Then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the hippo vanished beneath the surface, the river swallowing its massive form in a swirl of foam. Paul reacted instantly, directing his tourist toward the bank before turning his canoe toward Evans. The apprentice guide surfaced 15 feet downstream, coughing and dazed, his arms flailing as the current dragged him farther from safety. Paul dug his paddle into the water, surging forward, his outstretched hand closing the distance. Then the river exploded. The hippo surfaced directly beneath Evans, lifting him clear out of the water before its jaws clamped down with bone-crushing force. A sickening crack echoed across the river as the hippo's tusks tore through flesh and muscle. The water turned red in an instant. Paul was just feet away, his paddle inches from Evans' grasp when the hippo struck again, this time slamming into Paul's canoe with devastating force. The impact sent him hurtling into the river. Before he could react, the hippo was on him. Its enormous tusks pierced his back and chest, dragging him under in a brutal display of strength. The water churned violently as the animal performed its deadly dunking behavior, submerging and surfacing with Paul caught in its grip. Mike Smith, watching from his position downstream, was already signaling for help. His quick thinking got the German tourist safely to shore, but Evans was gone. The Zambezi had swallowed him whole, the river's churning current carrying his lifeless body into the depths. During one surfacing, Paul managed to reach around the hippo's head, desperately searching for its eyes in order to claw at them and distract the animal. The animal responded by shaking him violently, eventually spitting him out. The force of being released sent Paul spinning through the water, his left arm nearly severed from his body. Emergency response teams arrived within 30 minutes, but faced the challenging terrain of the Zambezi Gorge. Paul was rushed to Victoria Falls Hospital with catastrophic injuries. His left arm was mangled beyond repair, hanging by just a few tendons. He had sustained over 40 puncture wounds, some large enough to fit a fist through. Medical professionals would later call his survival miraculous. Most hippo attack victims die within minutes. The search for Evans lasted 2 days, involving multiple rescue teams and local fishermen who knew the river's treacherous currents. His body was found 7 miles downstream, caught in river debris near the entrance to the Batoka Gorge. The autopsy revealed he had drowned after being rendered unconscious by the initial impact. The force of the hippo's strike had caused severe head trauma before he even hit the water. The investigation uncovered a pattern of warning signs that had gone unheeded. Local fishermen had reported the bull hippo's increasingly aggressive behavior in the weeks leading up to the attack. The animal had charged several fishing boats, behavior experts later identified as territorial expansion. Yet no formal system existed for sharing such crucial information among tour operators. The tragedy led to fundamental changes in Zambezi River operations. Heritage Safari Adventures worked with wildlife authorities to establish the first comprehensive hippo monitoring program. GPS tracking of known aggressive bull hippos became mandatory. Guide training was enhanced to include extensive hippo behavior recognition, and minimum distances from hippopods were doubled from 50 to 100 meters. Evans' death devastated the local guiding community, drawing hundreds to his funeral, where many spoke of his dream to establish a training school for underprivileged youth interested in river guiding. His mother's words at the memorial about his plans to open his own tour company sparked a movement within Zimbabwe's tourism industry. After months of rehabilitation and adjusting to life with one arm, Paul Temper returned to Africa with a purpose, founding the Evans Namasango Foundation to provide education and training for aspiring guides from underprivileged backgrounds. His book about the experience, What's Left of Me, became required reading for river guides worldwide. Today, the Zambezi continues to draw thousands of tourists annually, its powerful waters still offering adventure seekers the thrill of Africa's mighty river. But no canoe launches without guides first sharing Evans' story. His death led to the safest decade in Zambezi River tourism history, though the hippos remain as territorial and deadly as ever. The bull hippo responsible for the attack was never seen again, likely moving deeper into the Zambezi's vast network of channels and tributaries. But its impact on river safety protocols changed Africa water-based tourism forever, a reminder that nature's most powerful creatures demand respect until the very end. Evans Namasango's mistake was drifting too close to danger, but Haley Wilson made the fatal choice to bring danger closer. When her safari vehicle stopped near a pride of lions, she wanted more than just a distant photo. Rolling down her window for a better shot, she never saw the lioness watching, silently waiting. And when the moment came, it struck with terrifying speed. It was August 15, 2011, when the Serengeti National Park would witness one of its most tragic tourist incidents. The vast African wilderness spanning 5,700 square miles across Tanzania's northern plains represents one of Earth's last great wildlife sanctuaries. By 2011, the park hosted over 150,000 visitors annually, drawn by its spectacular concentration of predators, particularly its 3,000-strong lion population, the largest in Africa. For safari operators, 2011 marked a record year for tourism. 27 companies ran daily game drives through the park, their modified land cruisers carrying tourists from luxury lodges into the heart of predator territory. Tanzania Adventures stood among the most respected, with a 15-year-old perfect safety record and a fleet of 12 specially equipped vehicles. The Wilson family from Portland, Oregon represented typical upper-middle-class American tourists. Haley, 42, taught 3rd grade at Richmond Elementary. Her husband, Robert, 45, had recently made senior accountant at Deloitte's Portland office. Their daughters, Emily, 10, and Sarah, 8, attended Westbrook Private School, where news of their upcoming African adventure had made them minor celebrities among their classmates. Unlike many families who chose Disney World or Hawaiian beaches, the Wilsons had spent 5 years saving for something extraordinary. Their previous vacations had never ventured beyond California's borders. This $15,000 investment represented their first international trip, carefully researched through months of reading safari blogs and TripAdvisor reviews. Robert's preparation was meticulous. He bought a Canon EOS 7D specifically for wildlife photography, attended 3 photography workshops, and read every Serengeti guidebook available. Haley had upgraded to the iPhone 4, eager to document their journey. The girls received new binoculars for Christmas, practicing their wildlife spotting at Portland Zoo. Their guide, Daniel Mkapa, had led safaris for 12 years without incident. His modified Toyota Land Cruiser 70 series featured elevated seating and a pop-top roof for photography. Standard safety rules applied. Passengers were instructed to remain seated at all times and keep all limbs inside the vehicle. By 8:15 a.m., they encountered their first pride of lions. Daniel cut the engine 50 yards from where 2 adult females and their cubs were resting after a morning hunt. As the family watched in awe, Daniel explained the incredible capabilities of these apex predators. Their muscular bodies weighing up to 400 pounds could accelerate from 0 to 35 miles per hour in seconds. Their bite force exceeds 1,000 pounds per square inch, enough to crush a buffalo's spine. Most importantly, they were ambush predators, masters of staying hidden until the perfect moment to strike. The next hour was spent following the pride, maintaining a safe distance as other safari vehicles joined them in a loose semicircle. The lions seemed unbothered by their audience, the cubs playfully wrestling while their mothers kept watchful eyes on the vehicles. Around 9:20 a.m., the Pride settled under a sprawling acacia tree approximately 40 yards from their vehicle. The morning heat was building, and the lions had found a perfect spot of shade. Two cubs were playfully batting at each other while their mothers lounged nearby, keeping a watch on the vehicles but seemingly unbothered. The scene was picture perfect, the kind of moment wildlife photographers dream about capturing. For the past 20 minutes, Haley had wrestled with the limitations of her iPhone 4's camera. The lions were right there, close enough to see every ripple of muscle beneath their tawny coats, every flick of their tails, but through her screen they looked like distant smudges. She glanced at the tourist in the nearby vehicle, their long camera lenses clicking away, and then at her husband, his own hefty camera raised as he captured every detail with ease. Even without seeing their screens, she knew their shots were crisp, detailed, exactly what she wanted. If only she could get just a little closer. Haley, known among friends and family for her fearless nature and sometimes reckless confidence, decided to get a closer look. Whether it was the adrenaline rush from being so close to Africa's apex predators, the frustration of her iPhone 4's limited zoom capability, or simply the kind of overconfidence that comes from watching seemingly docile lions for over an hour, she made a decision that would cost her life. She reached for the latch but hesitated. Windows weren't supposed to be opened. Ignoring the rules, she slid it open anyway and leaned out slightly for a better angle. Her focus was on the screen, adjusting the frame, trying to capture the cub's playful pose. The lioness, however, had never stopped watching. In a blur of muscle and power, one of the lionesses launched herself from the shade, covering the distance in seconds. Before anyone could react, the massive predator reared onto its hind legs, its powerful front jaws slamming against the open window frame. Haley barely had time to gasp before the lioness's powerful jaws clamped onto her neck with terrifying precision. The force crushed her cervical vertebrae instantly, severing a major artery. Blood spattered across the vehicle's interior as Haley let out a gurgled cry before going limp in the lioness's grip. Daniel reacted instantly, slamming the vehicle into reverse while reaching for his rifle. Robert lunged toward Haley, but the lioness was already pulling back. Daniel fired a warning shot into the air, startling the lioness momentarily, but the damage had been done. Haley's lifeless body slumped partially out of the window, her iPhone tumbling to the floor, still recording. Emily and Sarah screamed in terror as the lioness released Haley and retreated with a low growl, blood dripping from its jaws. The other lioness remained close, eyes locked onto the vehicle as if expecting another opportunity. Emergency response teams arrived within 20 minutes, but it was far too late. Haley's injuries were catastrophic. Death had been almost instantaneous from massive blood loss and spinal trauma. The tragedy sent shockwaves through the safari industry. Investigations confirm that while the Wilsons' vehicle had followed all park regulations, the incident underscored the importance of strict adherence to safety rules. Tourists were reminded that even a seemingly harmless action like opening a window could have fatal consequences in predator territory. The park authorities faced a difficult decision. The lioness, now having killed a human, was deemed too dangerous to remain near tourist areas. It was euthanized, and its cubs were relocated to a different area of the park. The trauma inflicted on the Wilson family was profound. 10-year-old Emily developed severe PTSD, requiring years of therapy. Sarah had recurring nightmares about big cats. Robert, haunted by the memory of those few seconds of distraction, never returned to Africa. Haley's death led to even stricter safety protocols. Guides were instructed to emphasize the absolute necessity of keeping windows closed, and warning signs were reinforced inside all vehicles. Her tragic death serves as a stark reminder that in the African wilderness, even a moment's lapse in judgment can lead to a terrifying final affliction. The Serengeti's beauty remains undiminished, but its dangers demand constant respect, a lesson the Wilson family learned at an unimaginable cost. Thank you for watching. These stories are a dark reminder that in the wild, a single mistake can mean the difference between life and death. But not all deadly encounters happen on the open plains of Africa. In our next video, we uncover the terrifying stories of those who thought bear spray would save them, only to find themselves at the mercy of nature's most ruthless hunters. Click over and we'll see you there.